Hello and welcome. The start to the game after the reset got a bit delayed for one reason or another, and one of them was the fact that although I had the historical setup for the frontline forces for the Russians, I didn't really have the entire deployment which is now being proposed for the historical setup. So I had a chat with Jay, and he sent me the Vassal file because thought the image, the JPEG image, is quite difficult to read some of the hex numbers on the JPEG image on the screen. So if you go into Vassal, it's a much clearer shot. So I went through that and I extracted all the starting positions for the Russians. I've given the Germans a free hand because there's not much latitude really. The Army Group North sets up where it does, and it tends to attack what's in front of it. The only slight problem I had was that if you used all of the single core Russian units in the setup, you actually had none in the force pool. I thought initially that was possibly deliberate because it would make those 454s quite brittle because there's nothing to replace a single step with. But that's not intentional because there are additional single step units in the force pool in the Vassal module which don't exist in the game. So I took an executive decision to take out, I think, 8 of the question mark cores and stick 454 reduced armies, so same number of steps, and I put them, they're basically in the interior anyway, so it doesn't make a lot of difference, to be honest, because you can only build up 2 454s to the full strength every turn because of the Stalin purges, so the net effect on the game I think is negligible. But it's a more historical setup, and I wanted to at least start with that. So I have actually begun. I've got up to, I think I'm just doing the first week of August for the Russians. So I had quite a good start with the Germans. The Russian front line is definitely weaker. There's been the typical lull in July where the Germans try and reset themselves, get their HQs forward. They've got one in Shepetovka, I think it is. That's now alive, and there's also one in Minsk which will be coming on stream next turn. So I think the 3rd and 4th weeks in August will be quite tough for the Russians once both of those HQs are up and running. And they're pushing another one forward as well, which is a week behind the one in Minsk. So the Russians were sort of, you get this sort of false feeling of security as the Russians when the Germans have that pause as everything goes out of supply and all the strengths are halved, and you think, oh, this isn't too bad, but I think there's about to be another lunge forward. I think the rules seem to work well. It's much better with having fewer improved positions on the map. It means that the Germans are only going to get their 1 a turn, which is fine. The Russians will get 1. They may choose to play a card, but at the moment they've got more important things to do. So there's only the free one coming in for each side each turn. So I think it's gone quite well. I like how it plays at the moment. I think the Stalin purge rule is a good one. So I'm playing with the original CRT for both ground and air, just with the new interpretation for the attacker pressed. So if you get the attacker pressed, the defender can then essentially do a defender pressed result, which is a nice little decision cycle. yeah, it's good. We've got bad weather next turn. That's the sixth turn. Has to be overcast. You must get one overcast turn in the first 6, and then one in the second 6. You don't know where it's going to come unless you get 5 turns of good weather, which is what we've just had. So we know it's going to be overcast next turn, which will slow down the air a little bit. I'll show you the map, just to give you some idea of how it's progressing. Okay, so in the north, you can see Riga. It's got one more turn to wait before it's active, and because the Russians have played their scorched earth card, so that's basically lost the Germans a turn of counting down their timers. It must be a pretty standard move to make for the Russians, I think. So Minsk will be online second week in August. Don't know how that compares to other people's experience with the scorched earth card having been played. There's another HQ there, one turn behind, and you can see the Russians counterattacked. They've got their HQ now back in, I think that's Smolensk, and that's now allowing them to counter. I think the Russians must counterattack. They can't let the Germans have it all their own way. They've built another HQ down here, which I think will give them some other options. So that might keep the Germans honest in the north as well. But at the moment, the threat to the Russians is actually in the south, because there is a breakthrough. This HQ is in combat mode, and there's a pretty serious breakthrough here. Now that was partly caused with the new mobile assault wall, which allows you to overrun a multi-step defender, because the Germans have both 10 cases and Panzerblitz in play, and it's the Panzerblitz card which gives you the additional +1 on the mobile assault. So 4th Panzer Army basically overran a 454. So with the +3, you've only got to get a 3 or more, so it's a 66% chance of success. Rolled a 4. That was a step loss, which went away. We had to retreat 2, but because the overrun was done in the breakthrough combat, that meant that they could attack again. They actually retreated to this hex here, so the Panzer Army went 1, 2, 3, 4, and then back 1 for 5. Overrun costs are now +2, but it does give you much more interesting options with the heavy units to exploit and try and overrun and make holes, which is what's happened there. So it's the Russian turn now, so they'll need to try and do something to react to that threat. Probably pull back behind this river, the southern bug, and get something into Smolino, is it? Can't quite read it. Smolino. They can get some reinforcements in there, and maybe in Nikolaev. Seems a bit strange seeing some of these names on the map, given what's happening at the moment in the world. Anyhow, and obviously Odessa will need a decent garrison. So, yeah, I think there's definitely a good game in the box. It just depends how much you want to adjust what came initially. We'll carry on with it.